And so today we are looking at Genesis chapter 32. And we're dealing with this family of Jacob. And we've already kind of saw how Jacob had to leave his home where he was there with his mom, Rebecca, and with Isaac. And we also saw how Jacob did the manipulation. All right, but now Jacob didn't do that by himself. He had some help by his what? By his mom, because his mom saw that, and so he left. And then he went to his mom's brother Laban, and Laban had Jacob work for him for what? For 7 years for a wife. But then what happened? He got the switcheroo, right? So he worked another 7 years, and then Laban came back around again, and it was like, okay, well, you know what? Let's change your wages to this, and we'll switch to this. And these kind of cattle will be your cattle, and these kind of sheep will be your sheep. And when it's all said and done, no matter how Laban twisted it, every time that the sheep multiplied and the sheep and the cattle that were stronger were always the ones that they described and said should go to who? To Jacob. So Jacob always seemed to get wealthier. So Laban and Laban's sons were looking and noticed this is the problem. This man is being blessed. Now, we're being blessed too, but he's getting more than we. He's getting stronger than we are. And that became an issue, and they kept trying to manipulate. So finally, Jacob's like, I got to get out of here. Because these guys they're not looking at me no more as like, oh, we're glad to have you here as a helper. They're looking at me like they want to cut my throat. They want to hurt me because they don't like the fact that I'm being blessed and they're not. Boy, that's a strange thing, ain't it? It's amazing how when you being blessed, how you can almost guarantee that somebody's going to be a little upset because you doing a little better. They don't want you doing better a lot of times. Well, that's what happened with Jacob. So now Jacob decides to leave, and he gets his family, he gets his daughters, his wives and his sons and his one daughter, and they hit the road. They're heading back down to where he came from, to where his father Isaac and Rebecca were from. And as he's going down there, we saw that Laban recognized that he was gone after 3 days, and then he headed on down there, and he caught up with him, and then they had that big confrontation that we saw. And Laban was talking about, these are my kids, and these are mine, and all this, and Jacob was saying, how dare you come here like this, and you didn't treat me right, you changed my wages 10 times, and no matter how you changed it, I still ended up being what? Blessed. That says something too, don't it? Right? So no matter, let the system, let the world, remember, who is the ultimate blesser? God. And if you are a child of God and you're trusting in the Lord, your bank account may say one thing, but your ability to live will be another thing. Amen. All right. God will work, and people will look at you at amazement that you shouldn't even be here right now. You shouldn't even have this right now. This is not something that you should have been able to achieve. Amen. But look at what God is doing. All right. No matter recession, depression, increase, decrease, it don't really matter, right? Well, then they come together, and then they agree, and they come up with this thing they call Mizpah. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent from one another, which is a thing of like, I don't trust you, and you don't trust me. All right, and so that's kind of like where we are. So Jacob is now on his way out. He's leaving. Laban is going back to his hometown, and Jacob is going back to his hometown. That's kind of where we are in chapter 32. Let's take a listen here and pick up where we left off.
Chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is God's host. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses, flocks and men servants, and women servants. And I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in thy sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and herds and the camels into 2 bands, and said, If Esau come to one company, and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said,
father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saidst unto me, Return unto thy country, and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies, and of all the truth which thou hast shewed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou saidst, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude.
And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kine, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants,
Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove.
And he commanded the foremost, saying,
When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou, and whither goest thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also he is behind us.
And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the drove, saying,
On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau, when ye find him. And say ye moreover, Behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me.
So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said,
I will not let thee go, except thou bless me.
And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said,
Jacob.
And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said,
Tell me, I pray thee, thy name.
And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel.
For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved.
And as he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank.
All right. So here we go now with the situation that Jacob finds himself in. You ever heard the phrase between a rock and a hard place? All right. So this is where Jacob is. He got Laban on one side, and Laban's like, man, if you cross over on this side, boy, it's going to be between what, me and you. Now he's heading back, but now all of a sudden he's remembering. Wait a minute. The reason I left home in the first place was because Esau was going to do what? He's going to kill me. Why was he going to kill him? Because he stole the what? The birthright. So now he's like, wait a minute, but didn't God just tell me to go back? And it's amazing sometimes that we can say, I know the Lord put in my heart to do this. But when you start doing it, everything that you see is a what? A problem. You see, the one thing, and sometimes this is hard for us to really accept. God don't care about problems. He really don't. Because problems don't mean anything to God. They really don't. It's like the tidal wave and the hurricanes that's coming over the sea. It bothers men. It don't bother the sharks. You think the sharks worried about water flying everywhere? Right? So certain problems don't mean nothing. And that's a very crude example. But problems don't mean anything to God.
Amen.
God don't have no issues with that. You can the wind, rain, all that stuff can be going. God, that's not an issue. The problems affect what? Our ability to mentally accept the fact that God can handle the problem. But you're going to see here that Jacob's going to be just like how we are sometimes. We caught up in the everyday aspect of what we see, which is why the scriptures tries to, in so many different ways, to tell us we walk by faith not by sight. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. It oftentimes tells us that our vision in doing the things of God should be covered with faith, not with what we see. And so our inability a lot of times to do that is what produces our anxieties, because we are focused on what we see. And that's just how we are. Because what we see is how we live. When you are walking and you see a ditch with your own particular eyes, walk what? Around the ditch. That's how you live. Because that's a natural problem. Right? If you naturally step in the ditch, you're going to do what? You're going to fall. Break a leg or break a neck or something. All right? And so we should rely on the natural vision. But if you're dealing with God, our natural vision has to take what? A back seat. Because we then got to walk according to the what? The Word of God. Which is not always easy to do. Most of the times we can get that confused. We get it twisted up, and we do one when we should be doing the other. And that's a lot of times where a lot of our confusion, our mistakes, our frustration comes from. We don't really understand how to walk by faith according to the Word of God, knowing when we step naturally and when we step spiritually. Because those are two different things to deal with. All right? So we look at this and we see, so Jacob is on his way. We look at the first verse of this 32nd chapter. And it says, and Jacob went his way. All right? And the angel of God, what? Met him. So now he knows he is doing things, what? In the proper spiritual direction. This is where God, what? Wants him to go. All right. Now, once again, when you know this is where God wants you to go, oftentimes we have the misconception that everything's going to be what? Smooth. Well, you can almost guarantee it's not going to be smooth, because you have an enemy that's trying to what? To discourage you. I'm trying to get you to walk by your sight and not by your faith. I'm trying to get you to walk by what you think and not by what God told you. That's what the devil tries to do. Right? And then, he tries to reinforce that. Right? So, but Jacob, he went his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And so, when you look at this, you see that Jacob knows that after that situation he had with Laban, that he is doing what God told him to do, because even before he left, God told Jacob to do what? Leave this place and go back to where your family was found. So he's now getting a second what? Confirmation. Right? And he's Jacob, and sometimes we need that. Yeah. Sometimes you're like, I believe the Lord told me to do this. And then you're trying to believe and go, but then all of a sudden problems come up, and now you're like, I wonder, you start second guessing yourself. I wonder, did God really tell me to do this, or did I just imagine it? Mm-hmm. And then the Lord will send you something else. So now here's Jacob getting another confirmation. Mm-hmm. But he ain't done. Jacob needs a lot. You know why? Because he's got a lot of obstacles in front of him. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need it as well. Verse 3, and Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, all right, to the land of Seir and to the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau." Oh, look at that. He's calling him what? Lord. My lord. So right now he's making sure I'm not going to say anything wrong to who? To Esau. Because I know the last time I dealt with Esau was looking to do what? Kill me. So Jacob's trying to butter everything up. So he's trying to do the right thing. All right. And so once again, we talk about how when you're dealing with somebody that may not like you, we talk about, okay, when the police stop you, you don't say, "What, man?" You say, yes, officer. Yes, sir. This is all Jacob was doing. He's like, I know Esau don't really care for me, but that don't mean I'm going to call him all kinds of crazy things. I'm going to say the right things to him. All right. So he says, and he goes on and he says, and he commanded him saying, we read that. Okay. He says, thy servant Jacob said thus, I have sojourned with Laban. I've been with Laban, our uncle, and stayed there until now. And have oxen. Now look at what he's saying. This is the bless you. This is the message to Esau. I have oxen and asses and flocks and manservants and women servants. And so why is he mentioning all that? I'm doing well.
Well,
in case you need anything.
I got you.
I got you. I could you don't have to worry about trying to kill me. I can give you some of the things that you feel may have been taken from you by me getting the what? Birthright. Now, is that the way we normally act? Of course. Is that what God's going to use to help him?
No.
No. God's got another method. And we'll see that later on. It says, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find what? Grace in thy sight. So he wants to find what? Favor. And by looking for favor, he's letting them know I have a lot of things that I can offer to you. All right? And sometimes we try to buy friendship. Because we know Jacob's been what? He's been what? Blessed. Because when he was down there with Laban, everything he touched, turned to a blessing. And that's why Laban was all upset. Because his bank account was increasing and Laban's was not. As much as Esau's, as Jacob's was. All right? So, in verse 6 it says, and the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet you. Uh-oh. So we saw Esau, and guess what? He's saddled up, and he's on his way to meet you. He cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Wait a minute. Why is Esau coming to meet me with 400 men?
Sounds like a fight to me.
I'm showing him I'm coming with oxes and donkeys and maid servants and men, and he's coming with 400 men. That sounds like a what? An army.
Sounds like an army to me.
And so that's exactly what Jacob is thinking. This man coming to kill me. He gonna kill everything I got, and he gonna take it all. He's still upset. But we got to keep in mind, oftentimes, that God. See, we're here because we have voluntarily surrendered our lives to the Lord. And we want God to give us direction, and we want God to show us the ways that we should go. We that's what we want. But there are certain people that may not want that. But that don't still mean that God can't do what? Move them where they need to be. And so regardless as to whether Esau is calling on God or not, God can put in Esau's heart what God would like for him to know. And what now, whether that person will understand it or believe it or do it, doesn't really matter. Because God is some mighty.
He's almighty.
Oh, kind of mighty?
Almighty.
Okay. So there's no stopping the Lord, is there?
No.
All right. So let's see what happens. All right. So in verse 7 it says, then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. Okay. Anxiety kicks in, right? Man coming with 400 men. Now, it didn't say he was a little worried. It said he was greatly afraid and distressed. All right. So he's realizing this is a problem. And he divided the people. So now he's going to come up with a method. I got this. I'm going to figure out how to do it. Who really got this?
God.
All right. But this is Jacob doing what we do? We're going to figure it out. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to get it. All right. So he's going to try to do that. He divided the people that was with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two bands. And he said, if Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company that is left shall escape. So he's basically saying, we're going to divide up into two. We'll see how Esau does with the first band. If he starts killing them, then we're going to do what? We're going to run. We're going to get out of here. All right. Verse 9. And Jacob said, now here's where he still does what he should have done. See, he's got a little plan, but here's the real answer right here. Okay. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac. He's doing what?
Praying.
He's praying. Therein is what we should learn to do in all circumstances and in all situations. Right here. Because God told him to do what? He told him to leave Laban. He told him to go back down. But then Jacob is like, well, why am I dealing with Esau then if you're telling me to go back? Okay, but still, you keep continuing to do this. So now he's praying, which is a good thing. So he says, and Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saith unto me, return to thy country. So now he's reminding the Lord, you're the one that told me to go down here. All right. And to thy kindred, and I will deal with thee. So he's letting them know, I believe you are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I know you told me to do what I am doing. So what's going on here? Look at verse 10. Look what he says. I am not worthy of the least of all thy mercy. So now Jacob is starting to understand. I know I'm a schemer. I know I do certain things, and I did the wrong things, and it was just even from the time I was born. I've been grabbing on to things that didn't belong to me. Because when he was born, remember he grabbed Esau's what? Heel. And that's why his name was called Heel Catcher or Jacob, trickster. He says, I know I am not worthy of all thy mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. That's an important thing. When God shows you truth, it's extremely valuable.
Yes. Amen.
Because truth will do in your heart, mind, spirit, and soul what nothing else can. You can have a bank, you can have $1 trillion in the bank. But if you're not living according to the truth, it can still have you what? Feeling all anxious. Some people got a lot of money in the bank, and all they're worried about is who's going to steal it. Mm-hmm. But that's, remember when Jacob left and Rachel left, and Rachel went and stole what? Her dad's what? Gods. Mm-hmm. See, if you serving a God that somebody can steal, that should not be what? Your God.
Your God.
And so a lot of people are like that. But when you are walking in truth, you know that God is the God of gods. He's the God of is almighty. That nobody can do anything to him that he does not allow. You're walking in truth. And now you can have what? Comfort. You can recognize that no one can steal what God has for you from him. All right. All the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over Jordan. When I came to head down to Laban, all I had was what? A stick. Staff. All I had was a little walking stick, a little staff. Now I have come 2 bands. Now I'm coming with so much that we have to walk in stages because we would be too much to walk as one. All right, so imagine have so much money you can't put it in one bank. They say, well, you can't put no more in here. You got to put the rest in another bank because we can't insure but this much. And so this is what Jacob was looking at. Look at all that I have here. But with all that he has, look at what his next words are. Deliver me. So you can have all that and still feel like I'm in danger. I need deliverance. I pray thee deliver me, I pray thee from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. For I fear him. Look at that. See? How many times did Jesus tell us what? Fear not. Why are you so fearful? The thing that we need to see that is one of the greatest tools of the enemy is the ability to produce what? Fear. So the minute you start feeling fear, you can recognize that's a smell that the enemy's around. That's a scent that he carries. You can pick it up. I'm a little afraid. Okay, the enemy's working in this. He's working in me. Somehow or another, I got to get past this and find a way to be trusting in God. And if we can replace our fear with faith, we then will become a overcomer. Now, when you replace your fear with faith, that don't mean that problems still won't what? Happen.
Still gonna have problems.
They still happen. See, it's not a magic trick. It's an ability for you to just trust God regardless. That's the key. All right. For I fear him, lest he come and smite me. So he's afraid for his what? His life. And the mother with the children. I'm also afraid they're going to kill my wives and my children. And thou sayest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sands of the sea. Now he's reciting what God had told him. He says, so if Esau kills me, how am I going to be able to fulfill what you have promised? All right, but that don't still stop God. Even if he was to die, God still, because he's already done had what? His children. All right, but Jacob is trying to find ways to just point to God. Lord, I need some confidence here that you're going to be with me. All right, verse 13 says, and he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand, and presented as his hand a present for Esau, his brother. So this is what he did. He went out and got 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 camels. Look at this. 40 their colts, 40 kine, 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, 10 of the foals, and he delivered them into the hand of his servant. So he's really like, I'm trusting God, but I'm also trying to pay off my problems. So he's trying to play what? Both sides of the act. I want to do both of these. I want to have faith in God, but I know how people are. You know, like what you said the other day. If you turn your head, we give you $5 million. All right? Let me come by through here with this boat. And don't even ask me what's in the boat.
That's right.
Just turn your head. Well, so Jacob was working that, but he's also praying.
Praying that everything he do works out.
He's praying, but he's also trying to scheme. But guess what Jacob is?
A schemer.
He's a schemer.
That's what he is.
Jacob is being what Jacob is. And guess what?
That's what we.
Suppose God gave you a name that described your shortcomings. Our name wouldn't be what it is today. Some of us would be called all kinds of different things, right? You know, we could think of some names. Just you think about it within yourself. What would my name be?
What would my name be?
If God gave me a name to describe my human manipulation side? You know, what would my name be? You know, some people be called lazy. Some people be called liar. Some people be called thief and covetous. I mean, we'd have all different kinds of names, wouldn't we? All right, hate. Look, here come hater. But Jacob is called heel catcher. He's the trickster. So he's trying to do. I'm mixing the prayer in with what I also am, and I'm a trickster. That's what I do. All right. So we're gonna see. He's gonna get past this. All right. And so in verse 16 it says, "And he delivered them unto the hands of his servants, every dove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt the drove and drove." So the one company, we're gonna have a space. So if something happens to one company, the other company will have a time to do what? To run. And he commanded that the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meets thee, and asks thee, saying, what art thou, or whose art thou, and whither goest thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, they be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present. A present? Mm-hmm. A gift? A bribe? Okay. Sent unto my lord Esau. Right? So he is buttering him up. Jacob is doing what Jacob does.
Yeah.
Don't nobody do it better than Jacob. Jacob can do this. He's like, okay, I got all this kind of planned out. But thank God he's still doing what? He's still praying. See, that's the thing that you're gonna be you. All your little flaws, and they're gonna show. You know, I mean, you can take a skunk. As long as you don't get the skunk scared, you can be like, okay, he's just sitting there. The minute you walk up to that skunk and boom, all of a sudden he can't help himself. Here comes the stank, and that's how we are. We can put on that same atmosphere. Oh, I'm trusting God. Oh, I believe in God. And then the enemy come and throw something our way, and all of a sudden, whatever it is that we have, come out. And that's what Jacob is doing. But at least if we could be like Jacob in this sense, even when we're acting like ourselves, if we can still do what? Pray. Go to God, because God knows how you are. He knows how we act. He knows about Jacob. So when you're trying to deal with a skunk and all of a sudden something happened, and it's like, if you try to get the skunk not to be afraid, but then all of a sudden he gets afraid, and are you shocked?
No.
Because the skunk just did what skunks do. And that's how God looks at us. We're sinners. And when we get afraid, guess what we end up doing? Sinning. Disbelief. Acting weird. Acting strange. And so if we can learn to not do that, it would be to our advantage.
Yes.
But oftentimes we end up acting just like Jacob here. All right? Verse 18. Then thou shalt say, did I read that already?
Yes.
I read that. Okay. 19. And so command he the second. So he did the same thing to the second drawer, the second fold. And the third. And all that followed the drove, saying, on this manner shall ye speak to Esau when ye find him. So he's like, okay, y'all follow my instructions. All right, because he's showing them and he's laying out the plan, the little scheme that he's got, he's laying that out. And said, ye moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present. All right, so he's going to try to do what? Buy him out. Okay? That goeth before me. And afterward I will see his face. Peradventure, he will accept of me. So hopefully he will accept this. So when the present over before him and himself lodged that night in the company. All right. So he's laying there with the rest of the folks, and he's trying to just hash all this out in his mind, because he knows tomorrow is what? The day. All right. Verse 22. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants. Right? Because remember, he has what? Four wives, right? He's got his 2 wives plus their handmaids. And his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jackbrook. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. So he's like, let's all cross over and let's get ready to go, because the time is what? Time is here. So, all right. So now they're all set. It's night. Look at verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there he what? Wrestled with him in. Let me read this again. And Jacob was left alone, And there wrestled a man with him unto the breaking of day. All right. So Jacob sent everybody over the brook. The only one that was still there was who? On that side was who? Jacob. He was left there by himself. So now he's alone. And it says that when Jacob was alone, he wrestled. They wrestled a man with him. Now, wait a minute. See, this don't add up. He sent everybody over.
Down with himself.
So he's there with just himself. So who is wrestling with him?
He's wrestling with himself with God.
He's wrestling. The Lord is trying to get him to what? See who he is. You're battling yourself, which is why Jacob is using tricks, and he's also doing what? Praying. He's trying to manipulate, and he's trying to ask God's favor. All right? And so God's going to deal with this and point it out to him. So he's wrestling with God to show him himself. Sometimes you don't want to see yourself. God said, well, here's a mirror. I want you to look at it, and you're going to see what you really look like to me. I don't know if I want to see that. Because Paul said that our best righteousness is what? Filthy rags. Imagine how you would look if you look to see how you look in the according to God. I don't know if I want to see that. I just want to just believe that I'm covered with the what? The righteousness of Christ. That's all I want to see. But Jacob's about to see himself here. It says in 25, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. So this individual, which we'll call a Christ-like or spiritual being, that's wrestling with Jacob, and telling and trying to get Jacob to understand that you're the side of you that believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac. That's the God. That's the guy we're trying to get you to recognize. I want to introduce you to this guy. But Jacob was like, no, I'm used to the heel catcher. I'm trickster. That's what I do. And it's like, no, let go of trickster. And the fight starts. Let go of trickster and let's now add you to that name. I want to not just have you believe in the God of Abraham and Isaac. I want you to be part of, so when people say, we believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Can I add you to that? Can you trust me like that? Can you trust me like Abraham, like Isaac? And now we can add to that Jacob. So can we show that side of you? But Jacob is what? He's wrestling. In verse 26. And he said, let me go. He said, let me go, for the day breaketh. So he's saying, let me go because the time for your confrontation is coming what? Near. Coming near. And he said, I will not let thee go except you what? You bless me.
Bless me.
And so he's trying to get him to see, but he's not seeing. Okay? And so Jacob was like, but I need to understand. I need you to bless me because I can't get this. You know, sometimes you ever, when you were a kid, your parents would say something to you, a hard head make a soft behind. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what's about to happen. Jacob already got hit in the what? In the hollow of his thigh. Mm-hmm. And now this thigh, we're gonna see here in a minute, is out of joint. Mm-hmm. But he's trying to get Jacob to see something. Okay? So now he finally points out. He's going to tell Jacob the truth here. Look at this. Let's read 26 and 27 together. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except ye bless me. And look at 27. And he said unto him, what is thy name? Look at that. And he said, Jacob. So he's saying, so who are you? I'm a heel catcher. I'm a trickster. Mm-hmm. And look what he says. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. So look at that. And to this day, what is the nation called?
Israel.
Israel. Okay. And let's see why. For, it says, for as a prince, thou hast power with God. All right. And with men, and have what? Prevailed. So God is going to make you a prevailer, a victor. But your victory comes because you deal with the what? The struggle. So we're going to have victory in battle, but to have victory in battle, you have to have a what?
Struggle.
You have to have a battle. You got to have a struggle. And we fight every day against who? Against the enemy of this world. The flesh, the Satan, all that is that makes us who we are in this world that's ruled by Satan. We battle with it what? Every day. But you're going to prevail. Look at 29. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. So he's like, well, what's your name? And so he's trying to put together who you are. Who is this that's wrestling with Jacob? It is what? It is God. And so here's where the commentators go. Some commentators say, well, this is God. Other commentators say, well, it's an angel of God. Some other commentators say, well, it is the pre-incarnated Christ. My thinking of it, that's all correct. Because see, if it's God, then it's God. If it was an angel sent by God, then who is he wrestling with? The angel? He's wrestling with He's wrestling with who? God. Well, if you as a parent and you have two kids and you tell one kid to tell the other kid, I said come here. When that kid tells that kid is speaking on whose behalf? Mine. The parent's behalf. So whether the angel or whether it's God is really inconsequential because the issue is God is doing this. Amen. So he's wrestling with God in any form that you want to try to apply it to.
And he's dealing a lot with himself. He's wrestling with himself, trying to wrestle with God.
Exactly. And God's trying to get him to show you, you don't have to be what you would name. You don't have to be what your nature is. Yes, your nature, and you were raised up in this way, this is how you was, and you've always been this way, and your people were like that, your family was like this, your neighborhood was like this, but you don't have to be that. He said, he says that your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast power with God and with men, and have prevailed. 29. And Jacob asked him, what is his name? And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? You know me. He goes, you know who I am. Why are you asking? You ever have something happen and you go, wow, I don't know why this something good, and you're like, man, I don't know why this, I don't know how this happened. You know how it happened.
It was God.
It was God. All right. And he blessed him there. Who blesses us?
God.
So, what's the name? The name is God. See, that's the answer. An angel can only bless you if God what?
Permitted.
Exactly. So the bottom line is, who's he wrestling with?
God.
He's wrestling with God. But God's trying to show him what? Himself. And you can actually do what? You can be, you can change. You don't have to be Jacob. But now we're going to find out here, as we go forward, you can be sensitive to this. When we go forth, God's going to rename him, and his name is going to be Israel. God also renamed who? Abraham. And when he renamed Abraham, every time that Abraham was referred to, from that point on, the scripture always called him by the what? The new name. Called him Abraham. That's not going to be the same with Jacob. Jacob has just been renamed by God to who? Israel. So sometimes he's going to be referred to as Israel, but other times he's going to be referred to as who? Jacob. Why? because that the aspect of Jacob is key to us. Jacob has who he is and who God has proclaimed him to be. And that's why it's when you think about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right? Where you have the Father, the Son, and then you have the Holy Spirit that does what? That dwells in us. So in us is the what? Spirit of God.
Spirit of God.
But the Spirit of God is still what? In us. So he's in you. That the you. So God is in Jacob. And when God works in Jacob, Jacob is who? Israel. But when you looking and dealing with Jacob, Jacob is still who?
Jacob.
He's still Jacob. So you're going to see as we go forth in the scripture that Jacob is going to sometimes be called Israel and other times he's going to be called Jacob. Because he's a whole lot like how we are.
He's just a person, just like me.
That's it. Exactly.
Just a person.
Right. So, so there are going to be some times that the skunk going to be smelling, he gave him a bath, he smells good. But next thing you know, he done got afraid. And when we get fearful, that's why the devil likes to make us what?
Fearful.
And that's why the Lord tells us to not have fear. So we don't start spraying out, bad attitudes and bad ways and bad emotions and all this anxiety that comes out because we walking in what? In fear. But if we walk in faith, remember the Lord said that God will take care of you. James Moore wrote that song. God will take care of you.
Yeah, but don't sing.
I'm not going to sing. I'll be done mess it up. But that's the key. God will what? Take care of you. All right.
You can sing, brother, if you want to. Don't worry about it.
No, you would.
Hey, we can't sing.
No, you don't want me to mess it up. I sang one time. His wife cried over there, and she wasn't crying because I was singing good. She was like, "I thought you could sing." All right. So let's finish this up. 30. It says, and Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. All right. Who was he wrestling with?
God.
Okay. And my life is preserved. Now he's amazed because see, when you deal with God, who is what? Almighty, and all powerful. But here's the thing that we need to make sure we are aware of. God is holy.
Yes, he is.
What does holy mean? He has no what? Imperfection.
No imperfection at all.
He has no fault. And that's why when we get into the later books, when we start looking at the offerings, when you have to offer up something, you got to offer up something that has what? No imperfections in it. And so when Jacob was saying, I wrestled with God, I have seen God face to face and survive. Because see, if you are sinful and you are in the presence of God, sin cannot be associated with God. So that means you have to be what? Consumed. God always consumes sin because God will never stop being holy. He will always be perfect. So if anything imperfect happens to come near him, it can't be imperfect anymore. It has to either change to perfection or be consumed.
That's right.
One of the two. So people always talk about, well, what is hell? I don't know what hell is. I don't really want to know. But I do know this, that hell is also described as what? Like a fire.
Fire.
And what does fire do?
Purges.
It purifies. It takes out all the impurities. So imagine living through all eternity just burning up your impurities. But that's the only way you can exist, because you don't want your impurity. But I'm going off on another thing here, but we'll talk about that a little later. But the point is, he saw God face to face, and his life was preserved. 31. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose. Ain't that nice? See? He's struggling all through the night, but then as he begins to pass over, guess what? The sun rises. I think that's a good metaphor for us. We worry about stuff all night, and then the next day you wake up, guess what? The sun come up, and it's like, it's okay. We're going to be all right. It says, and he halted upon his thigh. Well, what does it mean? He halted upon his thigh. It means he when he stepped on that one leg, he stopped for a little while, and he stepped on another leg. That means he's got a what? A limp. All right. So, and why? Because God did what? He had to touch him there. He touched him there. And he passed over Peniel, and the sun rose up, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not the sinew which shank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh. So they show this kind of favor towards that, and showing some kind of allegiance. That they won't even eat that part of the thigh any longer, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. All right, and so now on next week we're going to see Jacob meeting Esau. This reunion, this family reunion, is about to happen. You ever go to a family reunion and, or let me put it this way, you ever be invited to a family reunion and you're like, I don't even know if I really want to go. Jacob's getting ready to have a family reunion that he's not sure that he wants to be there. But he needs to be there, and he's going to be there. And we're going to see what God's going to do. All right? Any other comments or questions?
Just one thing to say. Y'all know anyone